I never thought I'd be the guy digging through secret files and secretive logs, but that's where I found myself a few weeks ago. My name's Mike, and I married Lisa about 5 years ago. We were pretty typical two kids, a suburban house, the usual life. But lately, I'd been feeling like something was off. She'd come home late more often, brushing off my questions, snapping at me over small things, and her phone was glued to her hand more than usual. I chalked it up to stress at work, or maybe just her being bitchy for no reason. Women, right. They're complicated. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. It all started when I noticed her acting weird during the last coronal mass ejection warning. Yeah, the sun flared up big time and the whole world was on edge about imps frying our power grids and stuff. The government put out alerts, and we were told to stay in the emergency bunker beneath our house, just in case. I've always been a bit of a prepper, so I kept logs of everything. Access logs, security system alerts, the whole deal. It's kind of my thing. But that day, I decided to check the bunker logs again just to be sure everything was normal. What I saw made my blood run cold. The logs showed that Lisa and her engineer lover, Jason, the guy who's been working on our solar radiation shelter, had entered the bunker together, late at night during the height of the alert. What's more, they didn't activate the family notification system. No alerts, no messages, no calls to me or the kids. Just them sneaking off into a highly secure, restricted area like it was their own private hideout. I couldn't believe it. The woman I trusted, the woman I loved, was sneaking off with some guy while the world was scared stiff of a sun flare knocking us out completely. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to process what I'd just seen. It didn't make sense. Lisa had always been bitchy, but I thought it was just her personality. Turns out she's capable of lying, hiding things, sneaking around behind my back during the worst emergency we've faced. How long has this been going on? Did she even care about me or the kids? All I could think about was how she'd betrayed me, in the worst way possible, and how she'd lied so effortlessly about everything. That's when I realized I couldn't keep quiet about this. I needed to confront her. I waited until she came home from work that evening. She strutted in, all bitchy attitude, trying to dismiss everything with a sarcastic remark about how I was paranoid or reading too much into things. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew about the bunker logs. Her face froze for a second, just a flicker, and then she started to lie, of course. She said Jason was just helping her with the solar shelter, that it was all innocent, just work-related, that I was overthinking it because I was stressed. She told me I was imagining things, that I always jump to conclusions, especially when she's bitchy. But I wasn't stupid. I knew better. That moment hit hard. My stomach twisted. It's one thing to suspect, but seeing proof like that, so clear, so damning, it just shattered everything I thought I knew about her. I could see her trying to manipulate me, spinning words, acting innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. My mind raced through all the times she'd lied about small stuff, now all pointing to the same thing. She'd been cheating on me during the biggest crisis we've ever faced. How long has this been going on? Why Jason? Was she just using the emergency as cover, or was this some sick game she's been playing? I felt a fire inside me, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, all mixed into one. I didn't want to scream or yell yet. I needed to think, to plan. I realized that this was no longer just about some affair. It was about respect, trust, and my own sanity. I'd trusted her with everything, and now I felt like I was standing in a wreckage I couldn't fix. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. If she thought she could lie her way out of this, she was dead wrong. I had some decisions to make, and I needed to be smart about it. The betrayal had opened my eyes wider than I expected, and now I was going to find out just how far she was willing to go to keep her lies hidden. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to get some concrete answers. Confronting her again might only make her dig in deeper, and I wasn't about to be pushed around by her bitchy excuses anymore. I decided I needed proof, something undeniable that would expose her for who she really was. I spent the next few days planning my move carefully. I checked the security footage around the house, going over every timestamp, every suspicious movement. I needed to know if she was sneaking out in the middle of the night, lying to me about where she was going. One night, I installed a hidden camera in her phone charger, something I'd never thought I'd do, but desperation makes you do strange things. I didn't want her to suspect I was onto her. I just wanted to catch her in the act if she slipped up again. I also kept an eye on the bunker logs, waiting for the next opportunity. I'd become obsessed with catching her, but part of me just wanted to understand how she could betray me this way, especially during something as serious as a solar flare warning. It was like she didn't care about our family or the danger everyone else was worried about. She was just off with Jason playing her sick games. Then it happened. A couple of nights ago, I was lying in bed when I saw her sneaking out of the house again. She had her purse, her coat, and a guilty look on her face. I stayed silent, watching her slip out the door. I followed her from a distance. She was heading towards the bunker, no surprise there. I decided to check the logs directly. Sure enough, her access code was used again, and this time she went in with Jason. It was late, well past midnight, and I could hear my stomach churning. All that time I'd been second-guessing myself, but now I knew for certain she was lying to me, hiding her secret life during the most dangerous time for us all. My heart started pounding harder. I thought about confronting her then and there, but I knew that wouldn't do. I needed a plan, something airtight. I wanted her to slip up again, to force her hand so I could finally see her real face, the one she's been hiding behind all these years. I also needed to figure out what exactly was going on in that bunker. Was she having sex with Jason, or was it just some affair? I'd heard rumors that they'd been working closely together on the solar shelter project, but now I was picturing something more, something dirty, something personal. The thought made me sick, but I couldn't stop myself from imagining everything. Over the next few days, I kept my eye on everything. I even installed a small recorder in the bunker's ventilation system, just enough to catch snippets of what was happening inside. I was prepared for the worst. I wanted her to get caught, and I wanted to hear her lie to my face. What I didn't realize yet was how far this would go, or how much more I'd uncover about her manipulative, bitchy nature. She's always been good at pretending she's perfect, but under that facade, she's just a woman who's willing to betray her own family, all for some secret sex with a guy she claims is just a colleague. And then, yesterday, I noticed her phone was missing for a while. Not just her usual quick check here and there, but an extended absence. I knew what she was up to. I grabbed my phone, played back the footage from the hidden camera, and sure enough, I saw her slip into the bunker again, this time with Jason. No hesitation, no fear. I listened to their muffled voices through my recorder, her bitchy tone, his smug responses. They were clearly talking about something more than just solar panels. I could hear them whispering, laughing like teenagers sneaking around, trying to hide their fun from the world. That's when I snapped. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. This wasn't just an affair, it was a full-blown betrayal during a crisis. I started to feel numb. All the patience I'd tried to muster had evaporated. I thought about the kids, about everything I'd built with her, and I realized I had to do something drastic. I knew I couldn't just confront her blindly. I had to catch her in the act again, with proof that she couldn't deny. I was ready to show her I had all the evidence, and I was going to force her to face what she'd done, because she sure as hell wasn't going to admit it on her own. That's the moment I understood. This was no longer about just finding out. It was about what I was willing to do, to protect myself, my dignity, and whatever was left of my marriage. The worst part about all this was how easily she lied, how effortlessly she spun her stories. Lisa's good at pretending she's innocent, even when she's caught red-handed. That day, after I'd watched her slip into the bunker with Jason again, I knew I couldn't pretend like I didn't see it anymore. I needed her to admit it, to face her own lies. So that night, I waited until she got home, still carrying the footage on my phone. My hands were trembling a little, not from fear but from pure rage. I confronted her in the living room, acting calm, but inside I was boiling. I told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into a bitchy sneer. "What are you talking about, Mike? You're just paranoid. You always jump to conclusions. Maybe I was just helping Jason check the solar panels. You're making something out of nothing." She spat, crossing her arms like she was so dismissive, so superior. I could see her trying to brush it off, trying to act like I was overreacting, but I had enough. I played the footage on my phone right in front of her, and her eyes widened for a second, then she scoffed. "Oh, come on, Mike. That's not what it looks like. You're so dramatic. Maybe I just went in there to tell him to stop bothering me about the damn project. You know how Jason gets, pushy, overbearing. It's not like I was doing anything with him. Just sex, please. You think I'd cheat during a crisis? That's so typical of you to jump to the worst-case scenario." Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt my fists clench. I'd seen her come clean, but it was all bullshit. She was lying again, trying to minimize everything, acting like she's the victim here. I told her I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore, that I saw her sneaking out, that I knew she'd been lying all along. Her face contorted into something nasty. "You're overreacting, Mike. You always do. You're insecure. You think I'm cheating because you're a boring, uninspiring husband who doesn't pay attention. Maybe I should just leave since you're so freaking paranoid." She yelled at me, her voice high-pitched and bitchy, trying to turn the tables. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done. The next thing she did was flip into full-blown denial mode. She started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, saying she didn't mean to cheat, that Jason was just a coworker, that she didn't want this to happen, that she was stressed, and that I was just being paranoid. It was ridiculous how she could spin lies so fast, so convincingly. But I knew better. I'd been married to her long enough to see through her act. She's a master at pretending she's the innocent victim, even when she's the one screwing around behind everyone's back. Watching her lie like that, I felt cold inside. I'd lost respect for her in that moment. I'd always known she was bitchy, but I never imagined she'd be capable of throwing her marriage away during an emergency, just for some quick sex and her ego boost. It was a slap in the face, knowing that while the world was worried about the sun's flare, she was off screwing her engineer buddy in the bunker. How could she be so selfish, so reckless? The betrayal cut deep. I felt a mixture of fury, heartbreak, and disgust. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her, but I held back because I knew that if I did, I'd only be playing into her hands. That night, things got even messier. I told her she needed to leave. Not just for the night, but for good. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. It was over. And as she packed her bags, her bitchy smirk never left her face. She kept trying to make me feel guilty, saying I was just jealous, insecure, that I was blowing everything out of proportion. But I knew the truth. I knew what kind of person she was, someone who'd betray her own family during a crisis just to get her rocks off. And I was done playing that game. No more secrets, no more lies. Seeing her walk out the door, I realized that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fix. I've been through a lot in my life, but betrayal by someone you love, especially during a disaster, it's like having your soul ripped apart. I spent the next few days trying to piece myself back together, still haunted by everything I saw and heard. The worst part, I know she's probably still lying, probably still hiding things. But I also know I have to move on, because whatever this was, it's destroyed what was left of my marriage. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her for that. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of numbness. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her sneaking out, the logs, the recordings, her bitchy lies. It was like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't fully escape. I kept asking myself how someone I loved could do this during a time of crisis, during the biggest emergency our world faced. She didn't just cheat. She betrayed us all, using the chaos as her cover. And I realized how deep the betrayal ran, how much she'd lied to me over the years. I spent hours researching everything I could about her affair. I looked into the bunker logs, the access codes, the security footage, anything that might give me a clearer picture. The more I dug, the more I found inconsistencies in her stories. She told me she was helping Jason with the solar project, but the logs showed her there alone and with Jason, more often than she admitted. I even managed to get some snippets of the conversations she had with him, caught through that secret recorder I'd installed. Their voices, their whispers, their laughter, things I never would have imagined happening behind my back. I started to feel a mixture of disgust and heartbreak every time I thought about her. How could she be so bitchy, so manipulative, so calculated? During the confrontation, she'd played the victim, cried crocodile tears, tried to make me doubt myself. But I saw her for what she was. She's someone who's willing to risk everything, including our family's safety, just for sex and her own selfish pleasure. That realization stung more than anything. It made me question everything I ever believed about her. I also felt an overwhelming sense of shame for trusting her so blindly for so long. I had been a good husband, I thought, providing for her, caring for the kids, trying to build a life that was stable and safe. And in return, she was sneaking around, betraying me during a crisis. That's what hurt the most. I kept replaying. The moments I missed, the signals I ignored, the times she snapped at me, all while she was secretly with him. It made me wonder how many other lies she'd told me about little things, things I never suspected because I wanted to believe in her. But I couldn't stay stuck in that place. I knew I had to do something, something to get revenge, or at least to make her pay for what she'd done. Not necessarily to hurt her physically, but to make her see that I knew she'd betrayed me, that she couldn't lie her way out of this. I started planning my next moves carefully. I knew I couldn't confront her directly again without her lying or spinning her stories. So I decided to gather more concrete evidence, proof that she couldn't deny, before I made any final decision. One thing I did was set up a small hidden camera inside the bunker's ventilation system, just enough to catch what was happening inside. Over the next night, I listened as her voice came through the mic, muffled but audible enough. She was clearly having sex with Jason. They were loud, careless, and enjoying themselves like it was some secret playground. I was sick to my stomach hearing that. It confirmed everything I'd suspected. She didn't just lie, she'd been unfaithful during one of the most dangerous times for us all. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with it. I felt a strange combination of rage and sorrow. Rage at her betrayal and sorrow for the woman I thought I knew. I started asking myself if I should fight for the marriage or just walk away. Every fiber of my being told me I deserved better than a wife who would cheat during a crisis and then lie about it. But part of me also felt broken, like I'd lost a piece of myself that I'd never get back. I sat there, staring at the footage, trying to decide what to do next. I knew I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't pretend I didn't know. The evidence was too damning now. I had to face her again, one last time, because I needed her to see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. That I'd uncovered everything, and I was done with the lies. Whatever was left of my patience had run out, and I was determined to finally get some closure, even if that meant revealing everything and confronting her with the truth. The confrontation I planned was agonizingly difficult to prepare for. I knew if I did it right, she'd have nowhere to hide, no more lies to spin. I wanted her to face the reality of what she'd done, to see that I'd gathered enough evidence to make her admit everything. I decided it had to be face-to-face, so I waited until she came over to the house one evening, expecting to find the usual bitchy attitude, the sharp words, the deflection. But I was ready this time. I had everything on my phone, video clips, audio recordings, logs. I wanted her to see I wasn't bluffing. She arrived with her usual smirk, acting like she owned the place. She threw her bag on the table, looked around like she was the queen of everything, and then started in with her typical bitchy tone. "What do you want, Mike? You're wasting my time," she snapped, folding her arms. I didn't say a word at first. I just turned on my phone and hit play. The screen lit up and I let her see. The footage of her sneaking into the bunker with Jason, the sound of her voice whispering, giggling, the intimacy in their muffled words. Her face went pale first, then red, then she started stammering. What is this? You're crazy, that's not what it looks like." She sputtered, trying to deny it. But I pressed play again, showing her the logs, her access code used multiple times during that same period. Her lies crumbled in front of her. She tried to act innocent, claiming she was just helping Jason check the solar panels, that she wasn't cheating. But the evidence told a different story. She was caught red-handed and she knew it. Her bitchy attitude shifted into full-blown defiance. She started yelling, "You're paranoid, Mike. You're just jealous because I'm smarter than you. You can't handle the fact that I don't need your boring-ass life anymore. Jason's better in bed anyway, way better than you ever were." Her words hit me like a slap, not because I cared about her stupid sex comment, but because I saw how manipulative she was, how she was trying to make me feel guilty, trying to turn the tables. It was classic Lisa, bitchy, self-centered, full of lies. I told her to get out, that I was done listening to her bullshit. She kept yelling, calling me insecure, pathetic, a jealous husband who couldn't handle a real woman, but I was past caring. The betrayal was too deep. I told her I knew everything, the sex, the lies, the sneaking around during the worst crisis we'd ever face. She tried to deny it all, but it was useless. The evidence was irrefutable. I could see the anger and frustration in her eyes, but also the fear creeping in. That night was the beginning of the end. She stormed out, screaming about how she'd find a way to win her freedom, how I was just a boring loser who didn't deserve her. I stayed quiet, watching her leave without a backward glance. That moment, I realized I'd finally taken control of the situation. I had the proof, I'd confronted her head-on, and she knew she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. All I wanted was some peace now, peace from the lies, from the pain, from the betrayal. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was done being a fool for trusting her. The woman I married was gone. Now all I had left was a bitter lesson in betrayal, trust broken beyond repair, and the harsh reality that sometimes the people we love the most can turn out to be our biggest enemies. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Everything about her betrayal, the lies, the sex with Jason, they all haunted me. I'd never been so broken, so betrayed, and honestly, I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. The worst part, knowing she'd done this during a crisis, when people like us should have been united in fear and survival. Instead, she was off screwing someone else, acting like the rules didn't matter. It was a wake-up call, not just about her, but about trust, about how fragile everything we build really is. I refused to let her win the narrative, though. I didn't want her to walk away free, thinking she'd manipulated her way out of everything. So I made sure the evidence was well hidden, stored securely, and I kept quiet about what I knew. My goal was to protect myself, my kids, and to get some clarity in all this chaos. I started talking to a lawyer, knowing I'd need to figure out the next steps, whether to divorce, fight for custody, or just cut her out completely. Honestly, I'm leaning toward cutting ties. She has shown me her true colors, selfish, manipulative, bitter, and I don't want her poisoning my life anymore. The thing is, she's still trying to spin her lies. She calls, texts, even shows up at my house, trying to act like everything's fine, that she made a mistake, that she loves me. But I see through her now. I see her for who she is, an angry, bitchy woman who's willing to betray her own family during a crisis just for some sex and ego boost. I've realized I deserve better. I deserve someone who can stand with me during tough times, not someone who cheats and lies when it's easiest to get away with it. And in this mess, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that trust, once broken, isn't easy to rebuild. I've learned that some people are willing to betray everything, even during the worst emergencies. Most of all, I've learned that I have the strength to face the truth, even when it's ugly. It's not about revenge, it's about protecting myself from further damage. I've accepted that I can't change her, but I can control how I move forward. So now I'm focusing on healing. I'm talking to friends, leaning on family, and trying to rebuild what I lost, my sense of stability, my faith in people, my trust in marriage. The betrayal still stings every day, but I refuse to let it define me. I'll get through this one step at a time. And as for Lisa, she's left my life, and honestly, that's the best thing she's ever done for me, estranged, bitter, and alone with her lies. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I also know I'll come out stronger. Because sometimes, the worst betrayals teach us the most about our own strength, and that's what I'm holding on to now.